Hi there. This week I'm going to talk through 3 easy ways to achieve your goals on Facebook. However, there is a problem with this title in that it does assume you actually know what your goals are, and incredibly, the vast majority of businesses active on Facebook have an idea of the commercial objectives that they're actually setting out to achieve. So rather than going through this very sensible, logical process of saying, this is the goal, these are the key performance indicators that will assess whether or not we're on track to achieving that goal, and then finally we can now develop the tactics required in order to achieve that progress and ultimately hit the goal, they skip this stage, which then of course it means they have to skip the KPI stage, because how the hell do you measure success when you don't know what success even looks like? And they just crack on with the tactics, which are typically a series of fairly random, completely disjointed posts, and ultimately they just disappear quietly into the Facebook ether. We want to do things differently. So first things first, we're going to establish what's the clear commercial objective behind your Facebook activity. Now of course it could be a million different things, but I believe for the vast majority of businesses they probably fall into one of these 3 categories, or perhaps even a couple. So we'll begin first of all with brand awareness. So those companies that just want to generate more exposure for their brand via Facebook. Now what should the key performance indicator be? Pretty simple, their reach. So a combination of the number of fans they have times by the engagement levels of those fans. So how do they achieve this? Well, for me, if you're a non-brand or a developing brand, it's all about finding your one thing, your one theme that consistently gets engagement with your target audience. If you're an established brand, if you're an Apple or a David Beckham, then people will listen to anything you've got to say. But if you're not, you've got to be much more selective, much more consistent. So, how do you find that one thing? Well, for me, I believe it exists at the intersection of these 3 factors. So first of all, it must of course relate to your product and service. It's got to be relevant. Secondly, it's got to be highly social and shareable in nature. So cats, babies, beautiful landscapes, fast cars, there's all sorts of things that for whatever reason, they just do brilliantly online. They're very, very shareable, they're very, very viral. There are certain things that are not. So you've got to decide what emotion are you trying to tap into. Is it hope, despair, sadness, humour? What's the emotion that's going to make this go viral? And you've also got to think about how is it going to make the sharer look good, because that's such a critical part of creating viral content. For example, you'll notice that while porn may be a very frequently searched query in Google, you don't notice too much porn content being shared on Facebook, because people are very, very concerned with how the content that they're sharing amongst their networks makes them look. So how is it going to make them look sophisticated? How is it going to make them look clever? How is it going to make them look hilarious? And the third thing is, it must lend itself to stunning imagery. So important on Facebook. But what if your goals are slightly different? Or perhaps brand awareness is important, but in addition, you want to generate some leads, some direct leads. Well, the key performance indicator, very simple, number of leads. So how are we going to achieve that? Various different ways, but one that we find very, very effective, run competitions. So the first thing to say with regards to running a competition is be really, really specific about the prize and use it to qualify the leads. Because what's going to happen here is you're going to generate lots of interest on Facebook, then you're going to send those people over to your website and capture their data. But you need to know that that data is going to be relevant. So how are you going to use the prize to qualify the leads? And I'll give you an example. At the moment we're doing this for a weddings company, and we want to make sure that the data we collect is relevant, is good quality. So we qualify it by making the prize a free wedding. So the people that are entering are grooms, brides, etc., etc. Those people are absolutely within our target audience. And of course, as well, be specific about the prize. So people, they like to see details. They want to know exactly what they're getting. And this might seem counterintuitive, but actually we find it a lot when in the past when we've given away vouchers, we've just found that the engagement level hasn't been as high, which is surprising because you think, well, it gives people lots of choice, but people don't want choice, they want to be told what to do. So be really, really clear. The next thing then, you might want to consider boosting it via either Facebook promotions or various other external competition websites. Absolutely worthwhile in certain circumstances, but do be aware that there is a danger that engagement levels can suffer, because what you can end up with, particularly with the external competition websites, is you get lots of serial competition enterers, that yeah, they'll be very keen, they'll enter all their data, but actually they're not part of your target audience, and it's probably the 5th competition they've entered that day. So just be cautious. The third thing, once again, use great imagery, and in this instance, make sure that not only are you using it to effectively explain what the competition and the prize is, but you're doing without the use of too much text, because Facebook are very, very strict on the ratio of imagery to text, and if there's excessive text, they won't allow you to boost it should you decide to do so, or wish to do so. What's the third thing then? So let's say that you're a different kind of business. Let's say that you're a business like ours, you're a B2B business or professional services, and in fact, Facebook is a largely irrelevant audience. Does that mean that you shouldn't bother with Facebook? Well, actually, I don't think so. While for a company like us, having 10,000 fans is never going to be an objective, it's never going to be of any value, it can still be a really powerful tool, and this is how. And I think this is one of the most underused benefits that Facebook offers. So, for companies like us, B2B businesses, I believe it can be a very effective way of increasing the conversion rate of your website traffic. So what I mean by this is, perhaps in the past, visitors would have gone to your About Us page or Meet the Team to get a better insight into the culture, the values, the personality of your business. Now they're going to go to Facebook, because Facebook is going to offer them a more raw, a more authentic and transparent insight into those things. Your KPI, quite simply the conversion rate of those visits that have viewed Facebook versus those visits to your website that haven't viewed Facebook. And how are we going to achieve it? Well, there's lots of different ways, of course, but here's a few examples, all things that we do ourselves. Any charity work that you're involved in, either the individuals in the company or the company overall, absolutely, that's a great way of communicating the values of the people within the business. If you do any staff prizes, and I believe every company should, it's a great way of acknowledging great work, then make sure that you're talking about that on Facebook. So we have our Geek of the Week every Friday, and it always leads to some really nice engagement. And then days out as well, if you're having a fun day out, as we are this afternoon, hence my mufti attire, make sure that that's all over it as well, because what you're doing is you're really clearly communicating the personality of your brand, which is so important when people arrive on your website and they want to do business with you. So I hope you found that useful. If you take one thing from this, please let it be the opening message. Before you do anything on Facebook, be absolutely crystal clear on the commercial objectives of that activity. Then you can decide, well, you can decide how it's to be measured, and then, and only then, should you develop the tactics required to achieve it. So good luck, but please, please, please focus on that first.